But I saw somebody put their hand up. So since one person put their hand up, I can't do it. Was that you in the back?
No.
That was you, wasn't it? You opposed? So yeah, Friday we'll have our quiz online on Blackboard. I'll open it up from 8, maybe leave it open to about 2:30 or 3 p.m. So it'll be about 30 questions, right? Now I don't like to, typically I don't like to teach this way, because I teach psychology, so I know the effects of learning styles and what sticks with people and what don't. But it will be true, false, multiple choice selection, right? So all 30 questions. Just difficult with this class for operations, where you're talking about strategy planning. Difficult for you to write out, sort of an explanation. That's what the cases are for, those project planning. So yeah, 30 questions, true, false, multiple choice, be on Blackboard. You don't have too much anxiety about it, don't stress out too much about it. Project plans. We'll get our objective statements next week. Who else wants to just come talk about their idea for a couple of minutes? Give their elevator speech. I remember you talked about a little bit last class. I think, yeah, you wanna? Yeah, just a couple minutes. Before you go, no, take your time, no rush. A good business person, overall, if you're trying to be a leader, not just a worker, anybody could just get the job. The person is able to communicate and speak about things, not with the fear of, I'm gonna say something stupid, right? Not with the fear of I'm stumble over my words, but just having the confidence to explain just your core idea. And I think the simpler the better, right? You don't have to come up here and give a dissertation. Come up here and talk about what's your core ideas, why you want to do them, why you think it'll work, what's some of the process, plan, how you're going to get there, et cetera, et cetera. So this type of stuff, just come on the fly. I mean, if you're going to be a real entrepreneur, right? You guys start your business and doing this, and you're going to have to go talk to investors, right? You talk about like, you're going to need some fortitude in order to do it, right? Or even that job. So when you guys go applying for those jobs and having those interviews and sitting there sweating, right? What am I gonna say? What kind of questions? You need practice. Practice. So this is good, easy practice, right? We're just in the classroom. This is not an interview or a real investment. But just take that into consideration. Be like, oh man, this is just whatever environment, right?
So hi everyone. First of all, I would like to apologize for my English, because I know I'm French, so sorry for that in advance. So, if you are in social media, or at least on Instagram, I believe you all have encountered sponsored ad through events to promote a Netflix show. In fact, nowadays Netflix uses influencers to promote their content. My idea is to work for Netflix and make it accessible to the mainstream using pop-up events, even theme parties, and more to create an immersion of the audience and create a new revenue stream. For example, let's take a recent show. I would say Glasson. My idea will be to create kind of an event, to create a sort of dinner in an unexpected place, and the guest will have to solve a murder, just like the movie. This idea is allowed to the general public to upgrade the experience and not to limit to a simple screen, with the opportunity to buy merch from the series and movies. It can also be a simple viewing of the movie or an episode of series, but in a team place. For example, Wednesday Addams. I'm sure all of you knows it. It will be in kind of a castle, something that is themed, just like the series, and of course with costume staff. Netflix, for the moment, is not present in the cinema and organize some events, but they remain limited, and it's needed to be invited. Here's their idea, is to find the public of Netflix and allow Netflix to diversify and strengthen its influence and solidify its first place on the market, which tend to decrease because of the offer multipliers. I'm sure all of you knows that there is a lot of streaming platform emerging right now. We have this new like Paramount Plus going on, so yeah. The advantage in that is that unlike movies, Netflix shows don't need any funding as they are mainly financed through subscription. Therefore, the ticket price will be entirely beneficial and will be used to support these events. Not to mention the spin-off merchandise that guests will be able to purchase. So yeah, that was my idea.
Any questions?
So your idea, it sounds like you want to make it exclusive to Netflix, correct? Or are you also open to working with other platforms like Hulu, Paramount Plus?
No, I think I would like work for Netflix, like I mean first base, but probably extend. I care. Like the main idea is to work for Netflix. Yeah. As they are like dominating the market, they have like a range catalog which is very interesting. Like yeah, that is.
What's the major cost that you foresee having to get this going?
Yeah, I would say like renting places.
For like
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, if you are renting some kind of castle, I'm sure it will cost a lot. There will be like logistics behind it. And as we are renting places, I think we need to do that like near big cities so that people don't have to move too far away, like in the countryside or something. So yeah, I think like the thing that would cost me the most will be like the places.
This is a separate entity you're creating that's gonna work with Netflix, or are you just being part of Netflix?
I mean, if they want me to be part of Netflix, I would surely accept it. But I don't know, they might be like not really into it at the beginning. They would probably need to have some results before asking me to join. So yeah.
So this is something you maybe want to present to Netflix.
Yeah.
But I think that this is a good benefit, plus I think that there's a great benefit to you if you were to take this on. Okay. So yeah, I think your challenge is, well, why would Netflix not just steal your idea?
Yeah, sure.
Right? Netflix. So therefore, should you start your own entity and say, I want to license Netflix stuff,
Yeah.
right?
I would also like use many partners with that. I think, yeah, Netflix might have some,
Yeah.
but I think the, I don't know how to say that, I'm sorry. Like the presently the advantage of what I propose is like, I would handle anything, like the event and stuff, like the organization. And I think Netflix, for now, they are more like focused on the show. So like the event aspect of organization, parties and stuff, they're not really into it. And for now, I think when they're doing events and stuff, they're like going through event organizations or, well, I don't think they do like by themselves.
And so the cultural immersion experience would be for new shows, like shows that are out that people are really interested in, and they can come have this real life experience of maybe taking parts of the story and
Yeah.
changing them. Okay. And so what's the real cost benefit to Netflix? Like, what do you think? They'll get more subscribers this way?
I think this
or
can help.
They can increase the cost of a subscription, or?
I don't think they need to change like the subscription because some of them already a bit expensive. But this will help Netflix to like diversify its activity. As I said, there's like a market saturation. And that will be like the element that differs Netflix from the others. Like they are taking a step up to increase like the audience experience.
I like it. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think it can motivate people to resubscribe to Netflix. Some of them are kind of bored or anything, so yeah.
I think it's a great idea. I'll tell you what I think why in a second. Any other questions? All right, who? Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's a good idea. It would show you how many people are actually interested in that per se series or movie, and that way it can help them learn what shows and what's good to keep on producing new series of. So.
Yeah, I think like the big advantage is that the ticket will be like the same price as cinema tickets, sorry. So people won't find it expensive and would be kind of better than just a regular cinema experience. Because as I said, Netflix don't need any funding for their shows, so yeah.
Who thinks that there's a market for this? There's a demand. Where have you seen some or a hint of this? Yes.
They have like certain pop-ups sometimes, like Stranger Things pop-up, that I know is like a huge hit that people go to kind of experience like, they set up like scenes like from the TV show and you can experience it. But I think with like what you were talking about is like a lot more in depth, so I think it'd be like even bigger than what that was.
Excellent. Who else? Seen something of the sort? Yes.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off of what he said as well, but also, but I think this idea, for sure would help Netflix because it's kind of doing something that they don't have the capacity to do as well. And I know, I apologize.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Yes, it does. Well, have we seen anything even remotely similar besides what was stated over here?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's like conventions and stuff, like Stranger Things, as you said. I hope there is some event that the audience can meet their favorite characters, and people like pay huge amount of money to see like people talking, like they're in a big like group kind of cinema theater, and there's just like famous actors just saying hi and they just buy tickets for that.
Yeah,
I think taking pictures with them and stuff like that.
Now, I recently, I wouldn't say recently, maybe a couple of months ago. So maybe in the last year, I've been to 3 immersive experiences. You've probably seen these advertised a few. What are some of the immersive experiences you've seen advertised big? Yes?
The Van Gogh exhibit?
Big time, right? So have you been to Immersive Van Gogh?
I don't know what it is.
Okay, it's a 3-day experience. Basically, they're projecting all of Van Gogh's art all over a big room. It changes, it has music, theatrics, all of the sort, right? So they had one for Van Gogh, I went to that. They had one for Monet, went to that one. They had one for Prince, right? The artist, Prince. Like with all of his stuff, motorcycles from Purple Rain, all this different stuff. And the tickets were pretty pricey. They were like maybe $35, I would say, piece. But there were a lot of people. So it's definitely a demand for that. But if you're saying even more interactive, right, with characters and ways to maybe change lines and story. Yeah, I think there's definitely a huge demand for it. You just need to figure out the process and the step of how that all work and come together. But yeah, I appreciate you coming up here. Thank you very much. That sounds excellent.
So, yeah, I remember now, So pretty much, if I'm mistaken, you did mention a bit of a cinema experience, and I think that also increases the value of it as well, because you're not just getting the episode of movie, but also more, interactive experiences. And, well, not as similar, Disney World and Universal Studios are all themed on different movies and shows that both have created and create interactive experiences, so it's somewhat in that market as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, even before all the immersive stuff, Disney had been doing this. That's what Disney World is, right? Disney World is essentially an immersive experience, right? You have all the characters walking around, castles, the rides, so that you can be sort of part of the cult, right? The cult of the characters and the storylines and things like that. And what have you, after you leave, what do? You may buy some posters, you may buy some other artifacts or something related to it, coffee mugs, all these different things. So your thing too is maybe to have something on the side where people can purchase items related to shows or something like that? Maybe?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's the idea of just, I'm sure that we all have like some kind of merchandising. It can be like some mug from, I don't know, Disney show or whatever. We all have that in kind of house.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I'm using the popularity of the show as they are already existent for some of them, and the new ones, I'm pretty sure that will work because the kids are good at doing that. So yeah, that's the idea, just not buying tickets, but also like buying merch. It already exists. Like I know that you can buy some on the Netflix side of the internet, also Instagram, but they don't promote it. Like it's kind of a hype for the moment.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Excellent. All right. And just wrap up maybe a couple slides on chapter 2 before we get into chapter 3. There are things that I think kind of laid out a more good representation of flow chart. Everyone here has done flow charts before? Classes? So off the top, how is operations, what we're discussing, right? This topic of operations, how is that related to other departments in a business? How would one think it would be relatable to marketing, finance? I get you gotta look up here, but in your own words. How would operations in the business, looking at strategy processes, be relatable to finance, marketing, or other departments? What's the crossover? I think operations is like the execution, the action of doing something to get it to the customer. How the customer finally gets this thing. You put your hand first.
Maybe, so like in terms of finance, like knowing the operation, how things are made and how it's being transported to the customer and sold to the customer can help you determine like a preliminary budget or how much you're gonna need for.
Yeah, that's the key word right there, right? You say finance is budgeting, right? But hey, we wanna implement this strategy, we wanna implement this process. Do we have enough money to do it, right? So you go and you communicate with your finance department, right, this is what we wanna do, this is what we think will cost. Finance will say either we can do that, right, we have enough money to do that, or we do not. And if we don't, maybe we can do a little bit of it. So go back and rework your plan and come back with a number that meets this criteria. What about for marketing? All right, you're working in operations, you're looking at the process within the business, and you're trying to communicate with marketing. How would that work? What is like the function of marketing? Like, you want the people here who, you know, took their marketing classes or maybe major marketing, like, what is the key core essential functioning of working in marketing? Yes.
Promoting like the business or company, like a product.
Yeah, you're trying to get customers to buy the product, right? In so many words, you are trying to create a demand. Your job is to create a demand, look at the amount of people who are buying it in some metric, right? Try to increase the demand with new stuff, new creative things to get people to purchase something, purchase more of something, right? And so obviously, you were gonna say something, Victor? Yeah.
So, I mean, pretty much what she said, and also, pretty much determining what to promote and how to promote it, the performance goals, so I guess, things more on the specific details of marketing.
Yeah, there's so much, so many words here, I'm working with the details. But in essence, you're trying to say, okay, I wanna implement this process to make our business more efficient, more effective. Does this translate into more people buying anything? If it doesn't translate to more people buying anything, who cares about a process change, right? So therefore, you have to work with both teams and even more additional teams, right? There are more departments in business than just these. But initially, you wanna work with marketing and finance for budgeting and demand, right? Looking at demand, looking at budgeting to see how this situation works. So here they give us sort of a flow, right? What could we, somebody think of something we could be making. We make them on sort of special order. What's something we could be producing on a special order for? All right, I'll make it up. I said we make furniture, right? We do special made furniture, right? So we start here in yellow. We have our custom. Custom means it calls in or goes online, submit an order, and what's next, right? We want to create a table, right? So they send over this order here to the sales department. We're gonna create a quotation with standard terms, right? Our quotation is gonna be submitted. And it's gonna be a standard, they're gonna respond to the quotation. Hey, this is how much it's gonna cost to make this table, right? I wanna make this table, it's unique, it's either going in my home, or it's going in my business, et cetera, et cetera. This is how much it's gonna cost, right? Here we got a quotation response. Accept the quotation, no. Prepare, okay, they don't accept it. So now we prepare product quotation with requested terms. And then we go back, now we go revise, right? Go back, all right, we can't do, you're not able to pay that amount of money for this, but this is what we can do for that amount of money, right? Okay, other situation, they say yes, right? Submit order to operations manager for review. Why would we submit operations manager for review? A simple question. Can we actually make this thing? Right now? Can we make it right now? Right. Do we have the capacity to make this right now? Do we have the resources to make it right now? Right? And so going back to a flow, submit order for operations to review, order data, check for variable inventory. Do we have the wood? Do we have the staining? Do we have the parts to make this table, right? Do we have sufficient inventory for it? Right? Yes, we do. Okay, we can allocate the inventory. Approve the order. Send for approval, request credit approval. Right? So that's credit being given to us to produce this thing. That's coming from the finance department. So credit approved because it takes money and resources to produce it. We're using machine, we're using all different types of things, lighting, etc. People, work, employees, etc. Right? Yes. Any other special terms or requirement? No? Okay, accept the order process. Right. If there is special terms, yes, request special terms here. So you get it kind of a total sort of visual of be like, all right, these are a lot of steps to just get something to build a table, right? But obviously someone has to create this process to say, how does this flow? Because time is money, right? What are the necessary steps to get to either an approval of making a table or rejection of making a table, or a revision of producing a table, right? So if you're an operations manager, you're looking at these fine details of how this process works, you could be like, hey, I think this works great, this flows pretty good, right? Customer sales, operation, finance, marketing. Or you say, this is too much. Right, why does it take this much? Right, somebody may come, do a Six Sigma review and say, oh man, this could be tapered down quite a bit, right? But I just want to give that for a visual representation of saying, we're thinking of tables here, but you could be thinking of anything. Like, what does it take to get my Starbucks coffee? What does it take when I go to the drive-through at McDonald's? How many people are back there? What are their roles? And how efficient are you getting there? Which we'll get to in chapter 3. So in chapter 3, I want you to kind of think of maybe like McDonald's drive-through, right? To keep it simple, say clarity or understanding. Or maybe like Starbucks or something. Right? Because if you think, there's some people that go through a drive-through and be like, this is crazy. Why am I waiting so long? I'm out, right? And go to another place. Or this is crazy. This is the 5th time they messed up my order, right? Like, what is the process by which you guys are putting together my number 10s with a Coke? You know, does it work? Does it not work? So kind of think of that so we can kind of keep it simple, right? We don't have to get too technical with the production package. All right, so everything costs. Everything costs in business. It costs to do something well, and it costs a lot of money to do something very poorly, right? So everything costs. One of the costs is prevention costs, right? Which is associated with preventing defects before they happen. Now, before we can get to this, let me think of a question to ask you guys about how would a company know if what they're doing, either with a service or a product, is doing it extremely well or extremely poorly? How would they sort of assess quality? Yeah.
Like after it's like released to the public, like based on reviews and like contacts and like what people say like on social media, like what people are talking about.
Yeah, so you can say online feedback, right? Everybody goes on Yelp. You can leave a very awesome review. Typically, when you go try to find a restaurant, you might go by how good reviews it has, right? Or you look at the very poor review and people put the pictures and back up, there was a roach in my pot, right? So now with online platforms, we're able to get to sort of like real reviews with photos and Amazon for products and things like that. What are some other ways? What if you're looking at McDonald's or looking at Mariano's? How will we get information that customers are satisfied, that there's quality in this service?
Or sometimes at like self-checkout, they do have like a survey at the end, like quick thing, just how was your experience today?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely, right? Kind of everywhere you go online now, you make the purchase, would you mind taking a survey, right? You don't care about taking surveys because you're busy, X out. Some people may do it, right? Company uses that for feedback. Yes?
The amount of money they are ready to pay for the product. For example, if they start to think that your product is expensive, maybe they don't give it time.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So you benchmark. You could be like, hey, people were paying this amount, and these many people were paying this amount. Next quarter, these many people are not paying this amount. We've lost a lot of customers, right? So obviously, you can look at key metrics in your sales data to say, hey, are we doing something wrong? Are we doing something defective, right? Is customer errors here. Another one is like mystery shoppers. So you wanna have the customer experience, right? You're a manager, or you're an owner, bless you. You're a manager, or you're an owner, you could send in a mystery shopper, right? You're like, what is it actually like to be a customer here? I know we produce this thing, right? I know we have all this stuff in our store, but what's the actual experience? You can time how long it takes to check out. You can see the availability of a certain product, right? Or the inavailability of it, right? Do they have it? Do they always not have it? You can get all these key metrics. And so that's, we want to avoid all of that, because that in turn reduces in the mindset of customers what quality is. And as a business, we're always looking to perform to create better quality. So costs associated with preventing defects before they happen, and that could be anything. This could be on the assembly line, projecting, using prior data to see the amount of errors we had before. This could work in maybe a sales or retail environment. How could this work in a retail environment?
You could have product testers to make sure, or they give them a sample of the product and they use it for X amount of time to make sure that it actually works.
Yeah, absolutely. Think of when you go on YouTube, right? You go see an unboxing, right? People doing the unboxing on YouTube. If they're reputable, this person will give you almost a straight up play-by-play of this product, how well it works. You're like, man, I've had it for 3 months now, right? I've had this product for 3 months, I've used it. Here's the pros, here's the cons. This broke, this was super cheap, hard on it, et cetera, right? One of them is given sample. And we got appraisal costs. Costs incurred when the firm assesses the performance level of its processes, right? How could that relate? What's an example of that? Yes?
So is that like payment accounting maybe to see how well your valuation doing?
Yeah, I mean, you can have an accountant to see, performance metrics for money, right, your sales and stuff like that. Or even errors, if we are talking like in the field of accounting, which is just another process, right, they provide a service. We could look at the amount of errors even in our accounting prior to the other year. By saying like, hey, this accountant saved me $100 million. Or saved our company $1 million. Or saved me on the individual level, he saved me, I don't know, right? He got me $3,500 back from the company. So it works both ways. It could be internal when you're talking about an accountant for the company, or it could be something even personal. Which means we have to pay that guy. That's the cost, right? An internal failure cost. Costs resulting from defects that are discovered during the production of a service or product. Big one. What's a big one? What industry? They're always discovering something failing. Yes?
Car getting recalled?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do they know? Do they already know when they're producing this car? They put it through rigorous testing. They're not just making cars and shooting them out to the public, right? Putting it through rigorous testing with high quality equipment. Do they already know that this car has a defect? Do you think?
Some might not. Like if they wanna cover it up just to get the sale out, because some people might not go through the whole process of getting it fixed, but that way they still want the car.
Yeah, but do you think the internal company knows after all the rigorous testing, like, hey, the steering column defects after X amount of turns or something like that, or the knobs break off?
It depends on how ethical they are,
Yeah.
that way some might be well, hey, let's fix this, and other ones might be it doesn't matter, they'll buy another car afterwards.
Yeah.
That's where the ethical basis.
So the ethical part comes into play. But for the most part, I would surmise that they do know. That's why they have actuaries, right? They have very, very smart people and a lot of high equipment to test the number of Times this knob can take being pushed, right? Remember, times this thing could be turned before this ball bearing comes in. They know this information, but if they've already produced and discovered this information later, they've spent too much money. They have to allow it to go, and then we'll worry about the problem later. You know what I'm saying? Because we already planned and allocated resources to it for Q2, Q3. Now it's discovered Q1 of next year that this is defective, maybe it killed people. Maybe it killed 1,500 people. They may already know that people will die. But with their insurance companies, with the actuaries, the cost of them stop producing it will be too much versus the cost of death itself in the insurance. So what I'm saying is, yes, you're absolutely right. So it does go to the ethics. We've seen this many times throughout history, right? All types of manufacturers, U-boats, parts catching on fire, things blowing up, you know? Even with Tesla, some of the overheating of the lithium-ion batteries, right? At the bottom. But they're good to catch early. So if you can catch them early and you're able to get the suppliers to get you new sort of equipment on there, and maybe they can fix that solution, great, right? And it doesn't happen in every industry. I'm just, I guess, picking on the car industry. Right? External failure costs. Costs that arise when the defect is discovered after the customer receives the service or product. Right? So you receive your product, get it, you ordered it off Amazon, you go on the review area, everybody's saying that this particular thing breaks, right? And now your manufacturer is either saying like, oh, okay, well, we need to change this, or just create a new product and take, allow people to send it back or get a coupon or some sort. There has to be some sort of strategy in place to recoup the costs. Try to make the money back because people are returning the item, right? So if they return the item, do we offer them just a new item? Do we give them substitutes? Things of that nature, right? If they returned it, now we've lost money on that. Ethical failure costs, societal and monetary costs associated with deceptively passing, well, we just talked about this, right? Deceptively passing services and products to customers that it jeopardizes the well-being. Right, so if you think of, let's think of if Kia and what's the other one's getting carjacked right now? You think Kia or Hyundai did not know that you could use a USB port to start the vehicle? And all these cars are being carjacked. Right? A multi-billion dollar company, right? You got this ignition system, you should kind of know how, how it can be jeopardized. And so what has happened, maybe they have known, but they say, hey, this hasn't been a phenomenon that has been happening. Oh, now it's happening, right? It's happening a lot in Chicago. Now it's happening, what's happening to the stock, right? Customers are screwed, the car go outside, the car's gone. Employees are laid off because now they lost all this money in the stock value that's going down. Partners and creditors, right? So maybe they had awareness of it. I don't know. There never really be an admission of guilt because that'll be too costly too. So you have to factor in all these different layers to it. Total quality management, philosophy that stresses 3 principles for achieving high levels of process, performance, and quality. Number 1, customer satisfaction. Number 2, employee involvement. And number 3, continuous improvement in performance. All right. So we talked last class about 6 Sigma, which is this comprehensive, flexible system. And you can get different belts in 6 Sigma. So some people do them to get a promotion at their job if they work in ops management. So they have a white belt, yellow belt, black belt, and even higher than that. Which means you basically get a certification of you studying stuff like this to try to say, how do you create more efficient processes and anything. Whether it's an assembly line, a manufacturing facility, or it's in retail sales, or they bring you in. So even some people have a job of being just operations consultants, right? So if you have this type of knowledge, you say, all I know how to do is come in and look at your process of how your employees interact to achieve a goal, or how the final product gets to the customer. And I know how to make this more efficient, and I can do whatever statistical analysis to prove it, right? How this could work. Employee involvement, right? This one is huge. Companies have transitioned. And now I would say the last 20, 30 years, we don't like to use really employees on the internal side of businesses. We may use something else. What will we use? What are some of the verbiage we'll use instead of just being an employee?
Partners. Partners.
Oh, what?
Like we say partners instead of employees. I think I didn't know partners.
Partner. Okay. Partner. Yes. You could call it a partner, right? You say, oh, I'm a partner in this organization or something like that. What else? I mean, just think even like you go to Target. Huh? No, but just think of the people who work at Target. What would they call themselves? There you go. Right? So you're like, oh, no, I'm not an employee that just does my job. I don't just do a job. I'm part of a team, right? I'm a team member. Our goal is to make sure this area is successful. So this is a philosophy, right? This is an ideology you project into employees. So once again, if you change the way people think, you change the way they act, right? So you can change the motivation. You can change that they feel like they're actually achieving some real goal, right? That they don't just have a mundane task associated with just being an employee of the company. So these are some of the utilizations in a business to get better performance, right? And your job as a manager is to improve motivation to make your people more motivated. There's a million ways you can do that. We talked about title inflation before, right? But hey, I'm a janitor at this university, right? In the university. What are we talking about? He works at the physical plant. He's a facilities manager, right? All of that is done in place to create motivation, to create performance, right? So now you're a team member. You work in teams, you work in groups. And when you guys get out and get your first real jobs, that's really just how it's gonna work. If you work in a professional setting, everybody's gonna be in teams. Right? You're not gonna be some isolated person just typing away all day. You're gonna be part of a team, whether you guys travel, go to different locations around the country as a team, right? Effectively. You're gonna be a team member. Everybody's gonna be in there. Here's the total quality management wheel. Customer satisfaction ultimately is in the center. Customers not satisfied, then we failed. Employee involvement and continuous improvement. These are the key, right? Things never stop improving, ever. The iPhone 13 Pro will be a 14 Pro next September. 15 Pro, the glasses, Apple glasses, all that stuff. It never stops, right? Has to keep improving. And you're using that with problem-solving tools, and they could be a host of them, right? Remember I said even just using psychology, right? A philosophy on how you organize human beings that work there. You can change the service or product design. Apple does it every year, or pretends to do it every year, all right? You can look at the process design, maybe in Apple, how it gets you the final product. Maybe they change factories in China, right? Maybe they start sourcing products elsewhere or something like that. Purchasing may have changed, right? How they actually purchase the materials to create a final product. And then benchmarking, which is basically using point of reference to measure up against. Typically people say last year's sales, right? Or last time the iPhone 12 Pro came out. This is what we did. We're using it as a benchmark for what we need to do this time around. Is that right? Is it 48?
Yeah.
Okay. Wrap it up here. All right, what is customer satisfaction, right? Customer satisfaction is conformance to specification. Hey, you put on the back of this label, this is all the stuff that specify what this product is, right? You can even go to the grocery store and you buy it, these are specs, this nutritional value. These are the elements that make up this juice that I'm buying, right? Same would go for iPhone or anything else. Here are the specs to the phone. There's the operating system, amount of memory, et cetera, et cetera. Value is the big one. Remember we said that one's kind of abstract or ambiguous. But value too. Value is your experience. You feel great with an iPhone. Yes, we feel great. You may feel superior to people who don't have it. Call it a crappy phone. Right? Is it fit for use? Does it do what it's supposed to do? It said it was supposed to do this. It doesn't do that. We have laws and rules against items that don't do what they're supposed to do. And then support. There's always an issue, right? There's always a problem. You buy something, always. But typically when it's like electronic. Always a problem, right? You need somebody to talk to you to solve the problem. You gotta have the support in place in order to do so. And then the psychological impressions, right? Which is actually part of that value too. Do you feel like you got a good deal? I feel like you got a wonderful deal, right? As compared to the other people who bought this thing. Right? Therefore, you walk around with a sense of pride because you feel like you got it with a highway robbery, because you got the coolest Jordans, and Nike store downtown had them 60% off. Right? You feel something great. Psychological impression. All right, I'll end up there. And we'll talk a little bit more about the quiz on Wednesday. Continue going. Have a good evening, guys. Bye.